Welcome to Pesto Comics Audio Edition. This is the entry for November 20th, 2024. Con Journal. Just look for The Lost Canadian. The last con of 2024, Thought Bubble. Welcome back. I'm late, and I'm not happy about it. Jetlag has won the day, as my plans to get this entry done at the airport or yesterday while I was trying to recover clearly didn't happen. The little bit of energy I did have, I used to get the latest episode of the Incident Comic Book Podcast posted. We've got episodes recorded through February at this point, so I won't have that excuse going forward. Sometimes things just don't align as well as you'd hope. It was for good reason, though. Not to spoil the plot, but I had a pretty good time at Thought Bubble over the weekend. Ideally, I would have stayed for longer and made a real trip of things, but traveling solo, I wasn't feeling up to it. I'm happy to be home and ready to look back at the weekend that was, even if it's a bit behind schedule. But first, let's look at some developments that occurred while I was away. Newsletter updates. Bonus update coming Saturday. You'll notice that I referenced in the main story that I did a workshop at Thought Bubble about crowdfunding indie comics. It's an updated version of what I did at TCAF last May, so rather than make a regularly scheduled post dedicated to that, I'll be adding a bonus update this Saturday for anyone who's interested. I didn't record a video of my mug like I did last time, but I'll include a video talking through the slides and an audio version as well. Project updates. Big Smoke Pulp Volume 1 going gangbusters. We're blowing through these stretch goals. With 9 days left, I'd honestly be shocked if we don't hit them all. If we manage to get to these too soon, I'll add even more stories to this book. It's already a thick paperback, and as we keep flying past these goals, it'll be a real heavy one. I'm excited to see this all come together. If you'd like to help us hit all the goals, you can find it on Kickstarter until November 29th. Archetypes 2 has less than a day to go, but it's happening. That means I'll be able to continue writing my Writing Tools articles within, thanks to the 64 backers who have contributed thus far. It's a cool project, and I'm excited to get the new edition in my hands. This campaign ends tomorrow. Prelaunch coming soon for NKW. I'm nearly ready to get the proper Kickstarter pre-launch up for Naked Kaiju Woman. Pre-launch is key for a big launch day, so I'm prioritizing this where I can. But I'm not just working on things for the first issue. Raphael is champing at the bit to get started on Naked Kaiju Woman 2. Between From Parts Unknown and Naked Kaiju Woman, we'll have 2 series running through the first half of 2025. This whole series is outlined and scripts are drafted. I'm fine-tuning it, but it's going to be a lot of fun playing with the characters within. I'll have a lot more to share as we get closer to the day, and you'll be first to know here. Naked Kaiju Woman launches on January 8th. Event updates. Christmas Market in Newmarket. I've been invited to Wayside Comics and Cocktails for their Christmas market. I'll be in the shop, likely having a market brewing beer, or 3, with all my usual wares. As a newsletter subscriber, I'll have a special gift for you too. If you haven't subscribed yet, that's easily fixed. If you're in the area, come by and visit on December 7th. Fan Expo Vancouver denied. I was on the wait list for Fan Expo Vancouver, but no longer. Instead, I've been denied a table. My application to host a panel is still pending. If that happens, I'll likely be there for the day of the panel only, but we'll see if that goes through or is also denied. I'll let you know as more develops. For now, let's talk about my weekend at a con where I was table-worthy. Thought Bubble. Day 0. Getting there. If the process of getting to Harrogate was in any way prophetic of how the weekend was going to go, I would have left immediately. The first flight of my connecting journey through Amsterdam to Harrogate wasn't horrible. In fact, we landed half an hour early. The problem with that was, being an overnight flight, it took away from my opportunity to sleep. Not that it was the greatest sleep anyway, as my neighbor had no qualms about using me as a body pillow, no matter how often I tried to shift or slink away. Now, early to my second flight, I had some time to kill with minimal energy. I didn't get much of anything done, aside from fighting to stay upright. I happily got on my next flight, and as the doors closed, we were told that we would not be taken off for at least another half hour due to fog in Manchester. Fine by me. More time to catch some Z's, with yet another neighbor not respecting my personal space. My hope was we would arrive on time, and I'd get to meet some folks in Harrogate during the early setup window. That was seemingly less and less likely. By the time I got to Manchester, I was already spent. I also didn't feel like I made it very far, as one of the first things to greet me when I stepped off the tram was a large maple leaf in front of a Tim Hortons. Needless to say, things didn't get better. My train out of Manchester arrived with only 3 sardine-esque packed cars. I didn't make it onto that one, blisters on my feet starting to form quickly, as I had to carry my luggage back up another flight of stairs to catch the next train a half hour later. Roughly 20 hours later, I made it to my hotel, with my lopsided bed that was begging me to roll off the side. I gave up and crashed on it anyway, hoping for a better day to greet me in the morning. Day 1. Jetlag makes a grumpy Gus. Harrogate is actually quite beautiful in the morning, even though the pictures I took while wobbling downhill don't do it justice. I woke up, probably too early, and walked over to the show, ready to start a new day feeling only slightly refreshed. I found my table pretty quickly, and it didn't take much to set up given I only had what I was able to carry in my luggage. Unlike most of my shows, the real goal of this trip was to meet the friends that I had only spoken to online in the flesh. In that way, day 1 was a success. Not only did I get to connect with folks that I already knew in some way, or in the case of Amelia, people I already met in person, but I got to meet a whole bunch of new people sharing the exhibit hall in Renchard Alley. Just after the lunch hour, I really felt my energy levels drop off. Starting my day at what, to me, still felt like 2 a.m. was difficult. I did what I could, loading up on caffeine, trying to move around, going for the odd walk to meet up with the people I mentioned earlier, but by the end of the day, I was totally burnt out. I still tried to power through to make an appearance at the all-important BarCon, but in the end, I didn't spend very long at the Tiny Onion MidCon party. I made a quick appearance, looking for anyone that I knew from earlier in the day. I didn't find anyone, and I made a quick exit. Normally, when I'm away from home, I try to get something that I couldn't get in Toronto. It's usually a bit of a challenge, as Toronto has everything you could imagine. I failed to get very far from home at all, yet again, but it kind of worked out. As far as takeaway went, unless I wanted pizza, there weren't too many options to choose from. I landed on the familiar getting a donair. It was actually an excellent choice. It was absolutely great. If you're in Harrogate, I recommend going to I Am Donair and grabbing the house special. I followed that up with a trip to Tesco to grab a Fresca, always a must when I visit Europe because it's nothing like what we have at home. And I made it back to the hotel much earlier than I'm willing to admit and called it a night yet again. Day 2. Low expectations, high rewards. I don't know if it was the rough trip paired with jet lag, but coming into the second day of Thought Bubble, I wasn't feeling so up to it. When I first sat down, I really felt like I was back at my retail job in my 20s, ready to put in another 8 hours. Maybe setting that low bar made the difference, as day 2 made the entire trip worthwhile. My workshop was early in the morning, just an hour after arriving, so I was able to start the day off with some high energy. I was really excited to see a packed house in the workshop room with a lot of creators looking to launch their first or their next Kickstarter. Hi to all of you that signed up for the newsletter, by the way. I said it in the room, but I'll say it again. I was a little worried that I was going to be speaking in front of an empty room, so it meant a lot to have everyone show up. And to those of you that came up and said thanks for the presentation afterward, I really do appreciate it. I'm always glad to hear that my help is valuable to folks, and in that regard, don't be a stranger. Shoot me an email, chat with me in the comments, or go on any of my socials. I'm always happy to help, or just to chat. Getting to talk to folks more in depth after the presentation at my table was a joy. Not having the ticking clock and being able to actually get to know everyone honestly made the day special. What was also great was getting to know my neighbors. On the first day, I was very out of energy and may not have put my best foot forward, but feeling a lot better on day 2. I had a lot of fun talking with Ace, Baz, and Sylvie on either side of me, and traded books with them too. As I left the Harrogate Convention Center, I really felt a buzz similar to what I felt at Wayside Creator Con just a couple weeks ago. Being able to connect with people at the same level and really learn from them or just to joke around is always wonderful. You really feel like you're on a team, even if we're technically a competition. We all want each other to succeed. Day 2 turned things around and made it a wonderful weekend. Apples and oranges, San Diego and Harrogate. When I was in San Diego, I really felt like I got to connect with people a lot and had a pretty good time at the show. Thought Bubble was special in a different way. It feels a lot more like TCAF than it does the bigger shows. We're all in it together at Thought Bubble, or TCAF, where in San Diego or Fan Expo, you really feel the clear divide between indie and pro. That said, as much as I loved Harrogate and everything it offered, you don't get the buzz of a town being taken over like in San Diego. It almost felt like Fan Expo Canada in that way, where you can walk a block in any direction and you'd have no idea that thousands of people are in town for the show. It doesn't help that the town shuts down before the show ends, so aside from the handful of pubs, there isn't much opportunity to create an atmosphere outside of the convention center. Coming back to Thought Bubble, I had a great time at the show. If I were closer to it, I'd go every single year. But after a decent budget spent and 43 hours of travel round trip between the trains, buses, and planes, I think it'll be a while before I return to Harrogate. When I do come back, I'll likely skip tabling, though I'd love to host a workshop or join a panel again. Maybe even figure out a way to do a live transatlantic edition of the Instant Ink comic book podcast. To make it worthwhile, I'll probably have to make it part of a larger trip and make a stop. I love catching up with everybody, especially the folks that I wouldn't see in North America, and I'd love to do so again. In other words, I'll be back. Eventually. Until then, let's talk about what's coming up on the Substack. November 27th, Fun with Fulfillment. From Parts Unknown #1, the second part of the From Parts Unknown postmortem. December 4th, Getting the Reps In, reviewing NaNoWriMo, or whatever we're calling it now. And December 11th, an ode to my cat Oliver. He's the most handsome. And some upcoming appearances. I'll be at Wayside Comics and Cocktails December 7th, as I mentioned before. And 2 waitlisted appearances. We'll see if these go through. Toronto Comic Con, March 14th to 17th, 2025. And Fan Expo Canada, August 21st to 24th. I'm sure this list will grow over time, but right now this is all I got on the docket. Come see me December 7th. That's a big day. Pesto Comics release calendar. January 8th, Naked Kaiju Woman 1 will go live. Followed up by the rest of From Parts Unknown. From Parts Unknown #2, February 26th. From Parts Unknown #3 on April 9th. And #4 on May 28th. This is all subject to change, of course, but we're well on schedule, at least with these 4 books, as they're all drawn. Just waiting on some coloring on all these and lettering and all that. But realistically, there's very little getting in the way of getting these launch dates set in stone and having all these books in your hands well within the first half of 2025. We'll have more information as it comes, but stay tuned to the newsletter or the podcast, and yeah, you'll learn more as you go. And this week on the Instant Ink Comic Book Podcast, we have Missed Connections with Robbie J. Atkinson. This was a 5-part series, and we sum it up right in the end. We did lose her video feed, but she still provides her insights via audio, and we get to see the ending of our piece that we've made together for Missed Connections. And on Tuesday, we just launched the next series with Daniel Calvin with The Cleaner, and he gives us some history on all kinds of stuff in terms of his work and how it relates to a lot of public domain. It's a pretty interesting chat, and we come up with a pretty fun idea after a few dark episodes. We decided to go silly this time. Refreshing in that way. Highly recommend checking it out. And that's it for this week. We get into the secret epilogue, I like to call it, and this is just where I ramble on a bit, as I do in general, but nothing's written down. I'm still dealing with jet lag, if that's unclear by my rambling and all that business. But yeah, I'm a little upset. As I look at the time now, I'm a half past when I'd normally publish this newsletter, so I'm a little upset that I haven't maintained this streak. I've been doing pretty well, where it's always coming out at noon, whatever date I've set. Things happen. I'm not that far off, but I'm still a little upset that I'm not hitting the exact time that I like to hit. With that said, I'm going to keep this epilogue super short. But yeah, Thought Bubble was great. Honestly, if I could get to it easier than multiple flights and trains and buses, I would certainly be there every single year, because I absolutely love the experience of just getting to chat with everybody and hang out. For that reason, yeah, definitely probably would stop with the table, as you end up feeling chained to it. And then people are looking for you, and it's just, I'd rather roam free and just be able to hang out with everybody and catch up and all that. I'll probably go in the future, likely not next year, but maybe down the road. Yeah, I had a good time. I'd love to repeat that. Ideally, I get to go to the local version of that, which is TCAF. It's such a big show, world renowned, not dissimilar to Thought Bubble. It would take me 20 minutes from my home to get there. Big difference from a 23-hour flight and train and bus. So hopefully I can get a table there. If not, I go every year just to hang out and talk to everybody. Hopefully I get to host another workshop or panel again too. I love doing that. I love being able to connect with people and help them out in their journeys of making indie comics and crowdfunding and all that business. And yeah, I'd love to share what I know and what I've learned as often as I can. So we'll see if I get to do that at TCAF at the very least. If I don't get a table, I won't be heartbroken, frankly, as I'm finding that the table, again, it's great to connect with people when I can, but you're in the mix and hard to find. And there's a lot of pressure of even just having all my products in front of me and people feel like they have to buy. And really, I'd rather make a connection with you, and then hopefully you can support when you can, instead of this pressure to make a sale right there so I can make table back. Yeah, I find it's just a lot more fun just to hang out and chat, and then the work will come when it comes. So anyways, I'm gonna end this here. I'm gonna thank you for listening. I'll be on time the rest of the year because everything else is a lot less time sensitive than this has been. The only one is the postmortem for Big Smoke Pulp, which 9 days left right now. So if you haven't checked it out, please do. It's doing very well. People seem to be really into it. Yeah, we're gonna smash through these stretch goals. If we maintain anything close to the pace we have thus far, I'm gonna have to come up with some new ones real quick because we're just blazing through these stretch goals. So I would love to do that. Give me that problem. Please check it out. Big Smoke, it's available till the 29th. So yeah, don't delay. Let's hit those stretch goals, and then we'll talk about it in a few weeks and how it all went. That'll be a fun one, maybe very positive. And yeah, in the meantime, I'll tell you about all kinds of stuff from parts unknown. That postmortem next week is going to be pretty interesting, as there are some interesting problems that I haven't encountered before, and I'll share with you what happened, how I got through them, all that business next week. Until then, thanks again for listening. I always appreciate it, and yeah, have a good one. Stay safe, stay warm. Talk to you next week.